Let's shift our focus now to Tshwane. On Thursday, EFF members stormed the City of Tshwane's council offices. They were calling for the removal of the Mayoral Committee Members and other staff following Mayor Randall Williams' resignation. The party says since the mayor resigned, members of his committee and other political appointees should not be working there. Acting Mayor Sutton joins us now with the very latest. Mr. Sutton, good morning and thank you very much for your time. Now, before what we saw yesterday, the last we had heard was that the Speaker would get a legal opinion on the two resignation dates and then revert to Council on Wednesday, where all parties were meant to deliberate on the matter. Can you just talk us through what happened between Wednesday and then what we saw yesterday?
Thank you, ma'am. I believe that subsequent to that, the Speaker did get a legal opinion that advised that the second letter of the Executive Mayor, where he resigns as at the 28th of February, is the correct letter, and that a meeting will be convened by the Speaker in due course after that, where a meeting will then be scheduled to elect a new mayor after the 28th of the resignation date of the Executive Mayor. Next week, we will have a council meeting. The Executive Mayor, Randall Williams, remains in office until the 28th, 12 o'clock in the evening on the 28th. And in terms of his power of delegation that was provided to him through council, he has the right to appoint an acting mayor, which he has done numerous occasions over the last year, which has been myself as the leader of executive business, which will mean we will proceed with a normal council meeting next week.
All right. Perhaps to take you back to get better clarity, was there in fact a commitment to come back to council to deliberate after that legal opinion would have been sought?
Not as far as I know. I think the Speaker was seeking advice whether it needs to be placed before council. I think he wasn't sure, but the legal advice then pointed out that indeed the second letter is valid. The Executive Mayor did not change his stance on the resignation. It was simply the date. And we also need to be, we will recall that in January, early this year, there was a municipality in the Northwest where the Mayor also withdrew a resignation after tabling a resignation. So it's perfectly normal. There's nothing that prohibits the Mayor from changing the date of his resignation, also on the condition that the Speaker have not yet accepted or confirmed the first letter, so the Mayor had the right to change that, which he just changed the date of his resignation to the 28th. And that's purely just to allow council to continue with the council business.
Were council members appropriately informed of the legal opinion that was sought, like the outcome of it?
I believe they were through the office of the Speaker. That's not a domain on my side, but yes, I am confident that the processes were followed correctly.
Okay. Then to the resignation itself, that little confusion where there was a condition that the resignation was effective immediately, then a change. Was there proper consultation with the DA's leadership or even coalition partners? Because just that change to some could easily suggest there was no conversation. A conversation would have happened afterwards where perhaps the Mayoral Committee said, let's allow for a smooth transition, change the date from effective immediately to at the end of the month. Was there consultation?
What I can confirm for you, and I need to just put this in perspective for you so you can just understand that those type of discussions and meetings happens on a level above mine. I am not part of those meetings and discussions. I know there was a meeting on Saturday evening with the Executive Mayor and the national leadership, where what was obviously the discussions of that meeting, I'm not privy to. I wasn't in that meeting. And subsequent to that, I can only assume that the process was followed where the national leaderships of the coalition and all the partners were properly informed about the processes. But my best advice would be to refer that question to one of the DA more senior leaders on provincial or national level, ma'am.
Now, chief among the reasons for the resignation by Mr. Williams was the stability of the government, so stability within the city and even the coalition. That 10 billion irregular expenditure, that one was one that probably, according to the Auditor General, highlighted the inability to track wasteful expenditure over an extended period of time. It's too much to have just gone unnoticed. It meant that there were no proper systems in place to even sort of pinpoint where money was being lost or how it was being wasted. How do you plan to correct this particular issue that was noted, that there's no proper tracking of wasteful expenditure?
Thank you very much. Yes, indeed. The irregular expenditure of 10 billion, I just want to put it in context, is a cumulative figure dating back to 2011. The actual irregular expenditure under the year of audit for the adverse audit was 1.4 billion, not 10 billion. But the 10 billion is obviously the cumulative figure. And you're 100% correct in what you're pointing out. What the Auditor General pointed out is the fact that there is no control environment. And I can maybe tell you that from our investigations post the audit outcome, it's been absolutely shocking. I think what we now determine is the control environment of the City of Tshwane. But I think more importantly, what the Auditor General was alluding to is that irregular expenditure has a specific process. Now, the important part of irregular expenditure is not money that's stolen or money that's been embezzled. It's money that has gone through the normal processes, the paperwork's there, it's legitimate aspects that the money was spent on, but the process followed is incorrect or was not in line with the terms of law and regulations. And there's a process that needs to follow, that it needs to be referred to the Municipal Public Accounts Committee. That needs to be investigated, and a decision needs to be made whether council is going to condone the expense, whether it's going to be written off, or whether it needs to be recovered from the individuals who are responsible for incurring that expense. And what the Auditor General was quite harsh on in the audit opinion and the process now was that we have not done enough to follow that process. Subsequently, there's been a number of forensic investigations, and we're hoping to clear out at least close to 3.6 billion of that 10 billion now. And more investigations are being conducted. What the Auditor General also pointed out was all 14 cases relating to the 1.4 billion in the 21-22 financial year have been under investigation. One of them have been concluded by the time of the audit opinion, and we are now in the process of taking a recovery of the funds that was irregularly spent in that regard.
In as much as the mayor had gone on to a number of platforms to explain what exactly happened with the money, it honestly created a very concerning impression that you had a CFO that was a law unto himself, which should be impossible, because one then asks, where would the city manager be in this instance? Because the city manager would essentially be that link between council and the administration. But it seems what the Auditor General discovered was a shock to everybody else. So would it be appropriate to solely place the blame on a CFO, and there would be no mention particularly of the city manager's role here?
No, absolutely. You're 100% correct. It's not just one person, and I know a lot has been said and made of that. I think we just need to put it in perspective that during the audit process and during that specific financial year, we had an acting city manager who subsequently, pre the outcome of the audit opinion, has left the employment of the city. So no action could be taken against the acting city manager in terms of the processes for the role that the acting city manager could have played. And obviously the CFO, we also know, would not have worked in isolation. So other people might be involved, but the correct thing we believe to do is we have a few investigations at the moment to get to the bottom of a number of the findings of the Auditor General. Amongst them, the allegation, or the conclusion rather, my apology, not allegation, I retract that, the conclusion by the Auditor General that there is very strong indication that a number of the financial reports that have been prepared through the year might have been fraudulently prepared. Now, what we need to determine is, has that been done by incompetence? Has that been done by negligence? Or has that been done by intent? And I think the crux of what action will be taken will be determined what those investigations will reveal of those three matters. And I think then more action will be taken against more individuals. And obviously, if you will allow me, ma'am, just in 10 seconds, part of that also is the political accountability. And I think that's part of the reason why the executive mayor has made the decision that he has made in conjunction with the leadership of the party.
Then in sticking with politics, how is the coalition agreement looking? Is it still in place? Will the DA be fielding a candidate?
Yes, ma'am. From my understanding, again, it's slightly above my level, so I'm not privy to those meetings, but from the information I've received, the multi-party coalition have committed themselves again to the multi-party coalition in the City of Tshwane and to the coalition agreement. Now, what that means is no changes are being proposed in terms of the agreement. The DA will be fielding a new executive mayor candidate, and they are currently in process to interview individuals and then to make an appointment, which will be communicated to the media, I think, in due course.